pumpkin pie of the low-carb and kind of keto variety. Although still rather high in carbohydrates, this pie will not wreck your diet, and it's delicious. Though it has a dizzying array of ingredients, the hardest part is simply gathering together, and of course setting them aside so you have space to work. He procures his measuring cups and his measuring spoons, which he'll need various of. He will use the three amigos of the low-carb flour world. First 3/4 cup and 3 tablespoons of almond flour. Yes, that precise. Next, it's 3 tablespoons of coconut flour. And the last amigo, 3 tablespoons of tapioca flour. Half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And a pinch of ground cloves. But that's not all. A 1/4 cup of sugar-free maple syrup, half a teaspoon of ground ginger, and nope, that's it. A teaspoon of vanilla extract, and finally, the ingredients that I'm commonly referred to. A tablespoon of molasses, the dark and slow variety, making sure to clean the jar to avoid ants. A pinch of salt, and of course another, and he mixes. And although it may seem like the dough will never come together, after some elbow grease and dedication, it eventually turns into what looks like a ball of wet graham crackers. And this smells delicious already. He forms it into a ball and preheats his oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then he moves on to his pie dish, which he covers in butter to the point where it is opaque, which we can see with the unnecessary clear pie dish. He uses his finger to make sure every crevice is covered, and then fetches his gingerbread ball. This goes into the center of the pie dish. Using a spatula and switching to a stiffer spatula, he eventually manages to press it into the pie crust. Marvel at its glory. On his way to the oven, he notices something peculiar with the dish. He can backlight it. And this shows that it's not exactly even. As he attempts to fix it, he eventually gives up with its evenness and throws it into the oven. This will bake for 5 minutes. No more, no less. In the meantime, he goes back to his cutting board, where he cracks 3 avian eggs. With style, nonetheless. When the 5 minutes are up, he removes his pie crust from the oven and places it on the countertop to cool, which he must do completely before he uses it. Then, returning to his mixture, he adds half a cup of heavy cream and loses all notion of what to do with the measuring cup. So, he turns it to the kitchen sink. Then he adds half a cup of sugar-free maple syrup, a 1/4 cup of unsweetened almond milk, and a 1/4 cup of secret sauce, i.e. bourbon. And since he has it out already, he fetches a glass and a piece of clear ice, which needs to temper. He also needs some sweetness in the recipe, so he adds 3/4 cups of erythitrol, followed by another tablespoon of molasses, again of the dark and slow variety, a heavy pinch of salt, and using his everyday carry whisk, he mixes his ingredients. After about a minute, he starts to notice that it doesn't seem very thick. As he looks around, he realizes he's forgotten the pumpkin puree, which is the key ingredient as it is a pumpkin pie. And now for the most difficult and most dangerous part, opening the can. And as we know from previous experience, this can opener is a little less than subpar. After repeated attempts with this horrible can opener over many videos, he finally throws it away. He returns with the tank of a can opener that belongs to his neighbor. This one works all the time, every time. He dumps the pumpkin puree into the mixture, or at least tries to, and the spoon saves the day. You could make your own pumpkin puree, but it's not exactly worth the effort. He returns to mixing the mixture and eventually turns into a nice, beautiful orange color, reminiscent of your Halloween pumpkin, because it's actually pumpkin. Then this beautiful orange liquid gets poured into the cool pie crust. Again, make sure it's thoroughly cooled. Next comes the test of endurance. Because this is so filled to the top, he must be careful. On his way to the oven, it's literally the slowest he's ever walked. Slowly but surely, he sets it on the stove top, opens the gate to Inferno, and places it into the heat vent. This he cooks for about an hour. In the meantime, he cleans, because if not, that's how you get ants. After the hour is up, he retrieves the pie from the oven and sets it atop his countertop to cool. Unlike other pies, pumpkin pie is not good warm or with ice cream, so he must let it cool. But first he must check that it's actually cooked. He pricks it and is satisfied, so he leaves it on his counter for at least an hour to cool. On his valiant return, he makes some whipped cream before trying the pumpkin pie. Adding some heavy cream and some sugar substitute, he then adds a little bit of salt and a little bit of vanilla extract. Then use an immersion blender or a whisk. He mixes. Once some stiff peaks form, it's ready. Try it and adjust to your taste. For him, it's perfect. So he sets aside and brings in his pie. As he tries the all-difficult first piece, he fails horribly. Also, it's still too warm. So this goes into the fridge for about 2 hours. When he returns later that evening, it's time for his second try, which doesn't go that well either. But this one's his fault. A third time is a charm. He plates it in the middle of a nice white plate and adds a dollop of whipped cream, which he really wants to douse in whipped cream, but not for the video. And that is how you make a low-carb and keto-ish pumpkin pie. If you liked this video, share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, eat well.